awkward. And I'm going to share my screen. And oh, by the way, I don't know if anyone's noticed, but I've managed to fix the technical issue that only people on the PB Hit Squad can actually see sessions now. And it was previous a bit more open to YouTube, but I've now fixed that. So only people on the Hit Squad get the privilege of seeing this stuff. Hooray. Okay, so can everyone see my screen? I'm sharing my presentation. Quick show of thumbs. Grand. Okay, cool. So today we're going to talk a bit about try budgeting and what's the best way to spend your hard-earned dollars. I'm just going to make sure people are muted. Okay, righty ho, just making sure people are muted. Cool. All right. So we'll talk about, we'll start off with a quote, and I stole this from Elon Musk. He said, "How do you make a small fortune from triathlon? You start with a large one." Now, of course, he was talking about a social media giant and taking over something like that, but you can spend a huge amount of money on triathlon, and there's always something new and shiny, and it's people who will go, all right, I'll get the new bike, I'll get the latest wetsuit, the latest Garmin, etc., etc. But it doesn't have to be that way, and we can't all afford all the shiny things we want in triathlon. So they're going to talk a little bit about what you really need and what are nice to haves, and then what I would see as an upgrade path that makes sense. Okay, so what are the must-haves? Now, I said triathlon can be as expensive or as cheap as you want it to be. A lot of people come to me and say, "Oh, do I need to buy this TT bike, or do I need to buy this wetsuit that's been advertised? It's $800, la la la." A lot of times, no. Like if anyone's coming in, they're just trying out the sport, and I said, "Look, this is what you need. You need a wetsuit, you need a road bike, decent pair of runners, and a Garmin and a sports wearable with a heart rate monitor." And I said, "Look, that's all you really need. Like you don't need to start chucking money at the situation." And as other people have looked at my motivation and my kind of training kind of presentation, I prefer that when you hit targets, you reward yourself with the next level of kit. But if you buy all the fancy stuff at the start, then it's only you that's going to be the limiting factor. So don't go bananas at the start. And now a lot of you guys are kind of experienced or into, like, iron distance, and you're in a few years, so you already have a lot of the stuff. But that's my advice here. By the way, I don't know if you can see it, but I just go, no, Apple Watches are not triathlon watches. I am, and I apologize to anyone who does use an Apple Watch. I just don't like them. As I said, if you're going to do triathlon, you really need to be looking at having some level of Garmin. Depending on the distance of the race, you can get away with it. One of the old gen Garmins, that the 920 XT, the kind of square one, because it does swim, bike, run. And to be honest, everything else after that is you're looking at battery life and nice new features, whether it's solar powered, la la la. But as a triathlon watch, they've never really added huge new features past 920. Okay, but so that's what you need, right? This is what you want. These are upgrades. You can get the fancy new wetsuit. You can get, the Blue Helix, the wetsuit, the Sailfish One, la la la. A TT bike made all out of carbon, literally lighter than air. You can get deep rim carbon wheels. You can get power meter for the bike, power meter for the run. Although I'm not a big fan of that. Get smart trainer that you can lock your bike into, and then suddenly it becomes linked up with Zwift, and you're virtually racing some dude in China, like in the comfort of your own shed. Carbon runners, newest Garmin. Now these are just stuff I put down because they're the things I would have thought of. But there's other stuff out there. Like there's every year there's something new, and if you look at Kona, that's where they try to sell it. Possibly Nice next time. Like that latest hat with the cooling software. Like you're sort of going, okay, and sort of the cooling element. Everyone's going to be out. The next race, people will have that. So what I decided to go through was a little bit of, now this is a bit opinion based, but we'll talk through it. What I would see as your order, if you have limited budget and you're thinking about how you progress through the sport, and let's say you've had a year under your belt, you've done a couple of Olympic sprints, or you've done your first 70.3, and now you're going, okay, I now know I'm in. I'm in. I've got the bug. I want to chuck a bit of money at this, and I want to sort of get myself faster. What I would see is your first upgrade is going from a road bike to a time trial bike. I think, and that it is a high cost item, but its impact is high. If you get a good fitting on a TT bike, you train on a TT bike, you're talking plus 2-3 kilometers an hour on the same course on a road bike. There's serious saves, and that's because it's lighter. It means you can go more aerodynamic, and you can get serious gains. I did put a kind of like, maybe not if you're very if you're not great at, if you're limited in flexibility, because it really benefits from a TT bike when you can actually stay aero, and I want to say aero down low, you're minimizing the resistance of the air against you. The next one, as I said, what I would think about would be deep rim wheels, or like your 808s or your carbon, like your zip wheels, and possibly a disc wheel at the end of at that spectrum. These aren't as expensive as a TT bike, but they do have a high impact if you can hold a certain speed. And again, so you're talking about maybe like up to £1,000 for or £2,000 for a set of wheels. What I would say, maybe not if you only have a road bike. These only really make sense to me if you're putting deep rim wheels, a disc wheel onto a TT bike, because otherwise the actual bike itself and the weight of the bike becomes a limiting factor. The next thing I would say, as I was saying, is you're literally going through the levels. You go, okay, right, I've got myself nice and aero. I can hold over 20 miles an hour, 30k an hour on the bike and all the rest. That's where the aerodynamic benefits of the wheels come in. But like, what's the next? I would then look at a power meter on a bike, and the power meter just means that you're working on a much more pure metric of your intensity and your effort. A lot of our plans, we work on heart rate, which again is a good solid metric, but it can be affected by fatigue, coffee, and a certain weather conditions, as in the heart rate starts drifting as well. Power is very precise. You get dialed into it. It works very well with smart meters, smart trainers, etc. Medium cost, as I said, you can get crank-based power meters. You can get pedal-based power meters. I've tried most of them. By the way, crank ones are the better. The pedal ones are not brilliant. But again, you're just looking for that a good, reliable power meter that's gonna give you that information through. The next thing I would look at is possibly, if you've got the TT bike, got the wheels, you got the power, and you're getting good gains out in race day and kind of on your race day sessions. I'd look then at smart trainers, like like the likes of a Yahoo Kicker, which essentially you plug the bike, you put the bike onto the kicker, and it interacts in erg mode, where it actually sort of it links up with Trainer Road, Zwift, Ruvi, Full Gas, these other apps, and you can get structured workout sessions, and it adjusts the resistance as you cycle along. So if you're in any of my plans, when you see the maybe a strength session or VO2 session, if you're on a smart trainer and it's linked up to Zwift or Trainer Road, etc., that will actually change the resistance on the bike for you, so you don't have to think about it. This is a really, really good tool if you're going to be spending a lot of time on the indoors because of inclement weather, or you struggle to get outdoors if it's a bit dangerous outside. If you have to do long bikes or a lot and also just indoor sessions, smart trainer is really a really good spend of money. Other items, then I was looking down, carbon runners. These are superb pieces of kit. They are expensive for a runner. You're talking about $300. You're talking about, but again, in terms of the greater scheme, this versus a pair of deep rim wheels or a TT bike is not that expensive, but they do give bang for your buck in terms of when you race on them. There is a definite spring in the step. I would have taken Probably 10-15 seconds off my tempo time on my running. I would have taken again 10 seconds off my marathon pace per kilometer, not per mile. So they are good, but I would be careful if you do have calf or hamstring injuries, as they very much increase the shock through the leg, and it might not be for you. The other thing I was talking about was an upgrade would have been the latest Garmin. Now, Garmin are all very shiny and new, and Chippy's not here, so I can actually slag them off a little bit. But in terms of the features that their watches, I've got the Phoenix Sapphire 6. What's it was 2 years ago. It was the latest and greatest. It's solar powered. It's got links up to Apple Pay. It's got links up to Spotify. There's a huge amount of features on that. I have no clue. Have I ever been out that's been useful to me for a solar powered version? I don't know. Well, seeing as my last Ironman I finished in the dark, I found it thoroughly useless. But the battery is very strong, and it's very good. So if you are looking to upgrade and you're kind of treating yourself, but these things can be expensive as well in terms of what you're getting. Like the Garmin's can be up to like $800-900, and you have to know whether or not you're really getting bang for your buck. For me, the battery life is good, which most of the Phoenix ones are. It's good, and it's got that triathlon feature. It can swim, bike, run. It can capture all your data. It syncs with your bike computer. It syncs with your heart monitor. You can't go too far wrong. Mark, I'm going to put you a bit in the spot. Is there any other items you would see there as useful upgrades that I haven't mentioned? What have you asked Andrea for Christmas?
I mean, you've got all the key ones there. You could start to go into the minutiae a little bit and, look at what benefits you can get from particular different front end setups on the TT bike. Some TT bikes, a lot of the sort of previous versions or iterations of TT bikes only had a flat aero bar setup, whereas the newer iterations and the newer aerodynamic position is with your arms in like a praying mantis position, like 15 degrees upwards, and a lot of the bikes don't allow you to do that. So you can buy then new front ends to allow that adjustment with better arm pads, better aerodynamics on the front. So you could go into really start and get into minutiae on that. The ceramic speed large jockey wheels on the rear, they weirdly make the cycling efficiency or the chain efficiency so much easier. You can literally spin the pedals with your hand and they'll keep spinning. It just reduces the friction. But I think that's a £400 upgrade to the bike. The handlebars or the front end setups upwards of £1,000. So it's really you've got to really look at the numbers of the marginal gains of what you're going to get from those features.
Yeah. Another thing as well, also, I was thinking there as well, like a good aero helmet is a good investment as well. For me, the new one, the cask ones are good, but and the things you're looking for there are the comfort of the helmet, how aerodynamic. They've moved very much away from the teardrop shape, but it's whether it's nice and comfortable for your head, and it's got vents that it actually keeps the head cool, and it's as aerodynamic. That's another kind of option you have. I'd put that probably after the Smart Trainer, I'd say. Okay, but again, but as I said, but you do need to compare the bang for your buck. As I said, if you're getting a ceramic jockey wheel, like literally that, and it's meant to be improving your watts or your or even the headset that Mark's talking about, and improving your aerodynamic position by like 1%, and you're still going, okay, but it's going to cost me $2,000. What does that 1% translate into? If you can't, or if you are the limiting factor, you can't get any more aero, regardless of what the bike setup. Is it worth spending $2,000 for that? Not at all. So always kind of consider what you're actually going to get out of your actual purchase versus what and do a fair bit of research. Okay, so just another thing, as I said, so this is very expensive, right? And we know it's an expensive sport. So I thought about ways of keeping the cost down, and we'll just talk about what other people's are on their wish list as well. Definitely go secondhand if you're new into the sport and you're wanting to keep the cut and you're very budget constrained. Don't be afraid about picking up a secondhand Garmin. Do be very wary about picking a secondhand bike. Make sure you get a good mechanic to check it out, and especially TT bikes if they've got carbon frames, because if they have a minor crack in it, that thing's gonna fall. That thing is just dangerous for you later on. So do be wary if it sounds too good to be true on any sort of like an eBay or an adverts or done deal. And if it is like a 10 grand TT bike and it's been sold for $500, that's been stolen. Okay, so just be careful of that. Other things as well, there are the options as well of actually renting at races for, like, if you want to get carbon wheels or deep rim wheels, you can rent them. But I'd also be a little bit hesitant on that, because if you haven't trained with a deep rim wheel, the bike moves very differently when there's any sort of wind. So just be careful on that. You want to be really confident about holding a bike with a set of deep rim wheels. Research, find out what the latest versions are, and this is back to what I said. Like, is it worth spending $2,000 on a new front end and all the rest, and you're not going to get much out of it? You do have limited budget. Make sure you get the most out of it. Check out for sales, Black Friday, and all the rest. Although I'm beginning to see that I think they just up their prices before Black Friday, drop the prices for Black Friday, and then return them afterwards. So maybe not. But expos are a class way of picking up a good bit of kit, because especially towards the end of an expo at a race, you'll see people giving out vouchers, etc., and all the rest. Those are ways of minimizing your cost. All right, so there's what I would see your progression and your bang for your buck: TT bike, deep rim wheels, power meter, smart trainer, a good helmet, as I said, and just for comfort and for aerodynamics, carbon runners, and then possibly looking at the latest Garmin upgrade. So, anyone else have any other things that they would add to that list, or they've recently bought and they think that and they'd swear, well, listen, this has been a game changer for me. I definitely have taken 5 minutes off my Olympic time due to the fact I was training with this, or I trained with that, or I did this differently.
Yeah, it's probably not just a little thing to add there, if you don't mind, Steve, just around the research piece. There is a couple of good websites, or one website I'm just going to share in the chat called, I don't know if you've heard of it or not, DC Rainmaker. So if you're going to go buy any new kit, have a look at this guy's website first. He does, non-sponsored reviews. He's not given stuff by manufacturers. He always sends it back, so he's not profiteering from it. He does some really honest reviews of new tech that comes up. A really good review on the Wahoo watches, the new ones, which sound really good if you've got a Wahoo head unit, because the data just transfers between them when you're in triathlon mode, which would be really useful. But the version 1 watch is just limited on functionality. But if you listen to the spiel, you'd end up going out and buying one, or I was nearly buying one until I read the review, and then you'd end up, with a watch that really didn't suit your needs. So definitely worthwhile looking, and doing a lot of research. You're going to spend in big bucks on this stuff. So take your time, do some research, post a question in this group. We've got a great group of athletes and experience here. And I think Steve bought most of the gadgets out there, or if he hasn't bought them, I bought them. So yeah. I think between us, we should have a very good idea of what's good and what's bad.
Yeah.
There's also, if you are looking for, cheaper kit, you can get X Pro Team kit. I'm going to put that in the chat as well. It used to be called a place called Pro Own Cycles. It's now changed its name to cycom.com. Really good bikes. My road bike is from this crowd. It's a Cannondale, which I would use, and there's a serious discount on them. It's used. Sometimes there'll be some scrapes on them, but it's worthwhile checking them out if you are looking at a second-hand bike.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a super, that's where one of our other friends got a serious deal on a was it the P5X he got it, or what was the bike that Lewis picked up from your man? Was
Oh,
that
that
from?
was the the PX series, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's another. So there are ways or means around it. As I said, it doesn't mean you have to buy the top of the range brand new. Again, if we all had unlimited funds, we would do, but we had. So listen, guys, I'm just going to stop the video here, and then we'll just have an open chat here. So make sure. So thanks to anyone who dialed in and watched this afterwards. We will be online again next week, and topic to be announced. But we'll stop that now. Stop share, and we'll stop recording.